welcome to the podcast. I'm hanging out via Zoom with Jeff Meszaros, an artist, um, very unique medium. You've been called by some, Jeff, the best bottle cap artist in the world. Is that fair to say?
Some people call me that, and I'm not gonna say I'm not the best.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's
I'll just go with it.
absolutely it's a unique medium. So how did you get into that? Like, where did you land on, I'm an artist, but I'm going to use bottle caps as my, medium kind of thing. How did that come about?
Well, my humble beginnings were tending the bar. I was behind the bar, Original Joe's in St. Albert, and I was throwing out all these bottle caps every time I'm opening a bottle of beer. And I'm noticing like every single beer I open, there's a different color and a cool little logo here and there, and like I should just save these and do something with them. And so I just started saving them, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I knew it kind of had to be like a mosaic type thing, right? Because they're all little pixels or just little dots, right? Um, and so my parents, they were visiting some friends in Thunder Bay, and they were showing us some photos, my brother and I. They had done that thing where they're just kind of like wedged the bottle caps into they had like a spool, an old spool of cable or something, and that was like their coffee table out in the back deck or something, and they were just pushing the bottle caps into it, and they did a little scene, and it just clicked. I was like, oh, okay, like I should just take that, but like I don't know, change it a little bit so that I can make something a little bit more detailed and just like interesting with it. So I'm a big Beatles fan. I got a big piece of wood, just a 4x4 piece of plywood, and I created a design. I just drew it out on Microsoft Paint. Actually, I found a photo of that quintessential photo of John Lennon with the glasses and kind of shorter hair, and so I drew it out so that it kind of matched all the colors that I had of bottle caps. And then for the next 6 years, it was just trial and error and blood, sweat, tears going into that. Like I walked away from it a bunch of times. I was only ever doing it in my spare time, but
Right.
yeah, it was one of those things where I just like I'd leave it for a couple months and then come back with an idea. And so yeah, after that was finished, a friend of mine saw it, and he was opening a bar, and he said, "Hey, that's really cool. Can you make me one? I'm a huge Clash fan. I'd love a Joe Strummer piece." I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." I didn't tell him that first piece took me 6 years, uh, or else he probably would have thought twice before going with it. But
Yeah,
yeah, so that's it. Just kind of snowballed from there.
that's awesome. So one of the things that you mentioned that I think is really interesting is you gave yourself a challenge. So I think it was August of 2022. You said you're going to commit to being an artist full time, and I think you gave yourself a 1 year kind of window.
Yeah.
So that was August. It's, basically May of 2023 now. So it's been about 8 months. Um, Maybe describe what that 8 months has looked like for you.
Oh man, terrifying, exciting, challenging, rewarding. Yeah, a huge mixed bag of emotions for sure. Like scary. First of all, yeah, it was scary because you don't have a steady source of income. I had a steady job before, and it was just becoming too demanding. And my wife and I just had a baby the year prior, so little one at home, and I got to support the family. So it's not only just a big risk to do it anytime, but like at a crucial time like that when there's other people relying on you. So yeah, it was a big gamble, but I mean, I feel pretty confident in my skills and where I am today, and people seem to really be enjoying the work I'm doing, and I was getting clients all over the world. So I was like, okay, I think this is the time to do it. And when I handed in my notice at my job, that's when I got the biggest commission I had ever gotten before. A distillery out of Austin, Texas, contacted me and said, "Yeah, we love your work. We want two huge murals, like 10 feet by 7 feet times two."
Holy shit.
And I was like, wow, if that's not a sign, I don't
Yeah.
know what is. So
That's
like just went all in with that, and they were super happy with it. It's hanging in a stadium in Louisville right now. So yeah, after that it just like kept going, and yeah, I was you know making pieces like this the Bowie piece over on this side here ended up blowing up online, and that got me a whole bunch of commissions, and now I'm working with like about a 5-6 month time frame for any new clients that want to commission
oh
me.
wow.
So
Oh, good for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
So you
it's great.
mentioned that your first one that you did, so the John Lennon one took you 6 years, give or take.
Yeah.
So when you start doing it and you realize that, okay, this is something maybe I do want to do full time, how does it change the way you approach the art? Because all of a sudden it goes from maybe something you do on the side when you're bored or whatever to, okay, this is how I'm, paying the bills. This is how I'm supporting my family. So when you wake up in the morning, the way you approach your art now is probably a lot different than it used to be. So was that an adjustment for you?
Yeah, definitely. In a lot of ways, for as much as the pressure was put on for me to, sell more and sell more consistently just to support the family, the pressure was also kind of taken off in that it gave me the time to really focus on like new techniques and just having a really good schedule. Like there's, a lot of stuff that I have to do behind the scenes. Like everyone just sees the final products, but the collection of the caps, I have to flatten them because they're just so much easier to use when they're flattened. Sorting them into all the colors, the design work, just the client relationship, everything. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes to it. So it really like relieved pressure in that sense that I could really focus more on those behind the scenes things and just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's yeah.
Well, and your videos, like I watched a couple of videos online. Um, I mean, just watching the video is exhausting. So, it's yeah, like I think if people think what you do is easy, they should watch one of those videos and it's like, holy shit, okay. Yeah, this is not easy. What I find interesting is, so your education, you have a diploma in fine arts and a diploma in alternative energy technology. So, it wasn't like, I'm gonna guess here, it wasn't like you were a starving artist looking for like, okay, what am I gonna do? Like you had options to be in the workforce and to do those things. So I guess what compelled you to take this risk? Because and you mentioned, you have a young child, I think 16 months old now. Um, so obviously the compulsion or the desire you had to be an artist was greater than, the other compulsions to have a steady job or whatever. So maybe just describe what that was. What drove you to do this?
I think the biggest thing that I've struggled with a lot of my life, and I know a lot of people do, is balance. They get so invested in one thing in their life that it can become all consuming. And I think my priorities just shifted once Miles, our son, came along, and it just, made me realize that balance was out of whack. And if I didn't change something, then, it was potentially going to lead down a pretty bad path in that I wouldn't be there for him and for my wife and dog. And so I think that was the biggest shift there was just realigning what my priorities are and just knowing that I have that confidence in myself that I can make it happen. um so yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Just yeah, knowing that I can work from home and be here with the family, and do things I love. Like the job I quit, it was a great job. It was super challenging. It was very fulfilling. The only downside was like it was very long hours and working away from home. So that
Yeah.
just didn't compute with what I wanted in my life, and what I wanted was to be with my family and create cool things. So now I have both.
I think that's really cool. I remember so I have two kids, and I remember when my oldest was born, and you have, like you mentioned, the word clarity. And it's interesting how when you have a child, when you have a baby, at least for me, and it sounds like for you, you all of a sudden realize what is important, and you also then realize what just isn't important at all anymore. Like you just could not give two shits about. And it just like really kind of allows you to realign what your life should look like, you know? And so it's just funny because a lot of people think that, oh no, I can't have kids because I'm too busy or I'm too this. Fine, don't have kids. I'm not telling people that they have to have kids. I'm just saying what I didn't realize until I had kids myself is how much more clarity it gave me. It was just like there were certain things I'm like, I couldn't pretend to give a shit about that anymore. And I really did change my life as well once I started to have kids. So it sounds like, you know, as stressful as it is to do something like this, when you have a newborn, it is almost because you had a newborn that you did this.
Yeah, yeah. I think you and I are on the same page with that for sure.
Yeah. No, I love it. So challenges, couple challenges that I was seeing, obviously, in the being in the beer industry, and seeing the shift that people are making from bottles to cans. I was thinking that your raw materials, that you're drawing from are evaporating. So how do you overcome that challenge?
You know what? Uh, I'm gonna reach out to different bars around town, and I still have a lot of people from all over North America and actually into Europe now that say, "Hey, I've seen your work. It's super cool. I've been collecting bottle caps for X number of years. I'd love to donate them to you. Like, what am I going to do with them? Like, clearly, you know what you're doing, so I'd like to
Yeah.
donate them." So I'm really not too worried. As much as I'm, maybe I'll take this moment to plead to the, local breweries, Western Canadian breweries, to, release a line that is just in bottles. It doesn't have to be all your whole
Yeah.
selection, but just do a limited edition, and then that way there will be some really cool local caps that I can work in. So
Yeah.
whoever's listening, take that, take that
Y-
home.
the problem, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here because I talk to the brewers all the time, is they're change, like when they change over their whole system, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, but
Yeah,
I think it's cool though because there still are a lot of bottles when you think about the industry in general. But when you were saying that, you know, just appealing to local bars and stuff like that is, it reminds me of at our festivals in the past, we've had, um you know, when say it's like apple season, we've had cideries, say, hey, you know, feel free to drop off your apples from your, you know, apple tree in your backyard at the festival. So they'll actually, you know, have like collection bins for that. So I feel like, maybe our festivals could become like collection bins for you.
I would much appreciate that. That would be that would be amazing.
um, awesome. So the other challenge, it would seem to me, is that, and we touched on this, but the process is so time consuming. And so, you know, and there's really just, you know, there's only obviously a limited amount of time and stuff like that. So have you, you know, looked in, and obviously you want your final product to be, you know, amazing, but have you found that as you've gotten, you know, as you've gotten kind of more used to the process, that you've been able to, has it become less time consuming, or is it that just par for the course?
Yeah, there's areas that unless I automate, they won't get any faster or more efficient. But there's definitely parts when I'm like technique when I'm actually making the pieces, like assembling them, that I learn little tricks just as I go. Oh, if I do it this way, it'll shave off a couple seconds here and there. And when it's a couple seconds here and there times like 4,000 bottle caps, then that adds up. So yeah, like every piece I make, I swear I'm learning a little trick or just a technique or a way to hold the
Yeah.
cap or like a different tool to use kind of thing. So I've got it pretty dialed in now as far as the assembly. Um, but yeah, I'm looking into automating the actual color sorting because that is the most tedious part. Is when I have a huge bucket of caps, and I lay out all my buckets of colors, 20, 25 buckets, just because I have different shades of red and different shades of blue and stuff. And yeah, that's just the most tedious part. So um, I'm in talks with the engineering crew over at Nate for a student project, like a capstone project, to actually design a cap sorter that is fully functional. And then if the design is to my liking, I'll look at having it fabricated and put it into use, because that would just like that would elevate my game just so much. It would free up so much time to be able to create more as opposed to sort. Either that or I just wait until my son is old enough and I just use him to
Yeah,
sort all my caps for me.
let him do that for his Lego fund or whatever. Just pay him.
Yeah.
Child
Yeah.
labor. It's not illegal if
Exactly.
it's your own child.
Exactly.
Hey, so one of the things, just looking at the art behind you, how do you capture the, and I don't even know if this is something you can answer, but it just seems that you're capturing like the essence of the person, like the soul of the person. Were you an artist before this became your medium? Like, was it something that you were already, good at? Because it just seems like, you don't have to tell people who like, that's clearly Marilyn Monroe and David Bowie. If I was to do it, it would look like a Super Mario pixelated version of those people. So how do you capture the soul of those people?
um I've never so I was in grade 10 art class. I've always had that kind of artistic side to myself. I doodled a lot as I was a kid. I did, yeah, a couple art classes in junior high and high school. The fine arts was in acting, so that didn't really apply to any of the actual visual arts. I always wanted to be an architect too, so that was something that I was always gearing up towards. So a lot of drawing in that regard. But this is kind of something that I had to develop over the years. I did a video of that first John Lennon piece that I made versus I had a client commission me to make that same image, and that was my 100th mosaic, more or less. I lost track of how many I had made, but it was about 100. So from the first piece to the 100th piece, just that amount of detail I can get and realism. It was just a long process of figuring out what works and what doesn't. You got to capture the eyes. That's
Yeah.
probably where I spend most of my time, because if you don't get the eyes right, then people are, that looks like who it is, but something's off, right? But they usually can't like tell. But yeah, so
Yeah.
if you get the eyes right, then the rest kind of follows suit. But
Right.
yeah, I just really focused on like the anatomy of the face with you know the light shining on the face, right? Your nose and your forehead and your cheekbones are obviously going to be lighter than like the edges of your face into your ears and stuff. So I usually just kind of work from like the brightest down to the darkest parts, and then the shadows of the face onto the neck and chest and stuff. So it's just yeah, it's just kind of knowing, and I'm limited with my colors too. So I know exactly like what works and what doesn't with the colors I have. So
Yeah.
I can really like place them accordingly now and know where everything should go.
So you had me thinking still about the bottle caps too, which is, could you not just buy bottle caps and just have them like purchased with different colors?
I mean, I
Or
could,
does
but
that,
what's the
is
fun
that
in that?
cheating? Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
feel I kind of feel like it's cheating. Like I've had some larger breweries give me bottle caps, like Labatt. They supplied me some virgin bottle caps, if you will, for a project that I did for them because they wanted it all like Labatt brand caps. So they sent me some. So that was, I'm okay with that. But everything else, like I'm just focused on using the caps that I get, and it's really fun. I'll always hide unique caps within each piece that kind of pertain to the subject, or I think are just kind of fun to hide in there. And then I'll write down a little cap search on the back of the piece so that the client has just that extra something to look at while they're looking at a piece. So it's from far back, they can admire the subject itself, but when you get up close, there's all these hidden caps
yeah.
within the piece too.
I think that gives it the depth, Like it just gives it like
Yeah,
there's so many little stories behind the piece of art.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so your mantra, be as sustainable as possible and make cool shit. And then your purpose, you said, is create beauty out of things that typically get discarded. So when I was thinking about those two things combined, is do you think of yourself as an artist, or do you think of yourself as a bottle cap artist? Meaning, could you see yourself branching out into different mediums as long as you're, kind of staying true to your purpose, which is, to use discarded things for the art?
Yeah, 100%. Like I started with bottle caps because that's what I had at my disposal. I was a bartender, so it was kind of out of necessity in a way that I create something out of these caps that I had. But yeah, I would love to, and I have plans to explore different mediums as well. Actually, this Maryland, I keep going the wrong way because it's weird. The Maryland piece was commissioned by a gentleman originally from New York, who is an avid collector of American history, and he has like warehouses full of you know random things like a letter from Einstein to I can't remember who he said Einstein was writing to. I think it was like Schrodinger or something like that. And then he had at one time like a copy of the Declaration of Independence, all this kind of stuff. So he commissioned me to make the Maryland piece, but said also I have all these scraps from hundreds of years ago, just American history. So we're working on some pieces right now, just made out of 100, 200-year old scraps of paper that aren't really worth much to him because there's maybe a little rip here or a scuff there, something like that. So they're really of no value to him, but I'm going to take them and create pieces that pertain to American history out of literal American history, newspapers, photos, letters. We're working on a piece right now, a couple pieces right now. One of Abraham Lincoln, made of all Civil War related materials. Like I said, letters and photos and newspapers from the late 1850s through the 1860s. So I'm super excited about that.
That
Just to
that's
branch off and
awesome.
try something new. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very excited.
Yeah, so it really is in the essence of what you do now, but it's just in a
Mhm.
totally different concept in a way. That's really cool. You
Mhm.
mentioned that you consider your mom a mentor. She was an entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur her whole life, which is interesting because sometimes, if your parents are entrepreneurs, it scares you away from ever wanting to be an entrepreneur. You're like, fuck that shit. I'm not doing that. So what was it about her that inspired you and made you want to maybe follow in her footsteps to some degree?
I think it was just the fact that she never shied away from a challenge, and she was really good at identifying opportunities. So that was one thing that I definitely learned from her. She had run a few businesses and still is running a business currently. But the the things that she had did over her career were so varied, but yet there was common ties through each one that I really picked up on, and I admire her for that. And she was always super supportive of anything I wanted to try. She's like, yeah, like if you're gonna try it, like just give it your best and try and be smart about it and try and find unique things that you can set yourself apart from other types of businesses, right? And so she was definitely an inspiration for my life and my career in that
One of the
regard.
things when you talk about business, or in some way, some ways I feel like an entrepreneur is almost the combination of an artist and a business person, right? So you have the art, and I meet so many artists, and through my life I've met so many artists where they're really good artists, they're so talented, but they don't have any ability to monetize the art, right? And so they're kind of stuck in this world of like they're making cool shit, but how do
Mhm.
you bring it to market? And so for me, I'm always fascinated by people that are able to kind of bridge that. And so they're successful artists, but they're also able to create a business to sell that stuff. Um, is that something that you find challenging, or has that been relatively easy for you?
I mean, it has its challenges, but I'm always up for a good challenge. So I I almost think of this slightly more of a business than an art. Is like if I was to assign a percentage, like it would probably be like 60% business, 40% art, which I think I got from my mom, that entrepreneurial mindset. So it's not really anything I kind of shied away from. And yeah, like yourself, I see a lot of artists and I've met a lot of artists that are amazingly talented, but there's that one component missing of they don't know how to sell themselves. And
Hmm.
I'm no expert, but like social media is fantastic for that. It's super helpful. There's just so many different avenues these days that you can be your own business. But I definitely feel bad when I see an amazing artist and they just like don't know how to market themselves properly. Like there should almost be like a wanted ad for artists and marketers and just like connect people. If you're a
Totally.
burgeoning artist or you're a new marketer, like find someone, because the marketer needs someone to market and the artist needs someone to market them, right? So
Yes,
it's
that's brilliant, 100%. Do you feel like some artists feel like, anything outside of creating the art is like selling out? It's just like, no, I can't.
yeah.
Like, I feel like, especially if you want to pay a mortgage or pay your rent, that's a hurdle you got to get over, man. Just put a
Yeah.
monetary value on it and sell your shit.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot when they have that mentality, because it's like, oh yeah, like you're just like you're just trying to make money, and it's like, well, duh, that's how our society works. Like
Yeah,
I can't pay for my mortgage with mosaics, but I can sell a mosaic and use that money to pay my mortgage. Like
yeah,
you got to be able to sell yourself, and I'm
absolutely.
somewhat shameless in that regard. And I know, like, I'm sure there's some artists that are like, you're just a hack that who wants to just make money or whatever it is. But it's like, yeah, that's the world we live in. So
Yeah.
embrace it.
Well,
You know.
and then plus you get to see, your art in so many different places, right? There's people that get to see you on social media, and, they're inspired to get a piece. Um, One of the things where we connected actually was, I think you connected with Dylan from our team, um, and he was asking or suggesting that we showcase you at the festivals. So when you do that, when you do a show like ours, and really just, I think the purpose was, I mean, obviously the connection was, you're using bottle caps as a medium, and us doing beer festivals, it kind of seemed like a fun fit, kind of a no brainer when
Mhm.
you're at events like that, because I'm always so busy running around that I don't get a chance to sit down and really see what the interactions are a lot of times. So for you, what is the value of being a part of something like that? I would imagine getting that immediate feedback from consumers, but just in your own words, I guess, what's the value of being involved in, sampling events, trade shows, that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely the feedback, that instant feedback. The Edmonton Craft Beer Festival was the first like live event that I had ever worked. I was lucky enough to have only ever sold online. Just people find me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So it was really a cool experience to do something that was so busy and had so many people coming by. I would often just stand back, like away from my booth, and just watch people walk by and do that whole, like, they look at it and then they double take, and then you see them squint, and then they're kind of, oh, those are bottle caps. And then I'd come up and talk to them about it and stuff. So that was like that was a really cool thing to actually see kind of what people's reactions, because I rarely get to see clients' reactions because they're often going to faraway places that I can't just hand deliver them. So it's really cool to see people's reactions in that way and just kind of gauge, how people feel about an art form like this. So yeah, super fun.
Well, we're laughing. So you're an Oilers fan. I'm an Oilers fan. And you commissioned a piece, or someone commissioned a piece. It was an Oilers, like, the logo or whatever. And I was joking. I was like, well, the beauty with Oiler fans is, someone who could order three of them, because, they need one for their house and for their cabin and for their office or whatever. And you that was actually what happened with the guy that ordered. Is that right?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, I just made two pieces because I'm just so stoked that we're in the playoffs right now, and I wanted to make a couple pieces that are round, and I posted them, and within like 4 hours, the guy said, "Yeah, I'll take both of them, and then a couple more." So uh, Oilers fans are very serious about their swag, I guess, right?
That's awesome. And so when like one of the things that I'm always concerned about, just going back to the festivals for a second, is I always want to make sure that anybody who's participates is getting value out of it. Do you get people, saying, "Hey, I want a piece," like when you're at a trade show? Like, do you actually get people like that you connect with that eventually become clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Oh,
think that's the biggest positive for an event like the beer festivals is people will come by, and it's not a purchase that someone they just walk by, they go, I want to buy it right now. Like it's usually like it's they're not cheap, so it's usually one of those things where people look at it and they go, okay, like I'm picturing my basement right now, my man cave, or like I got this beautiful wall that I got some artwork there that I want to replace, and they're thinking about, okay, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna measure my wall, and think about it, talk to the wife, talk to the husband, kind of thing, and then I hear a week later, a couple weeks later, a month later, okay, we're ready. We want to get that piece, or like we want to commission you to do this or that. So it's
nice.
yeah, I don't get tons of sales just because of the sheer size and price at the events, but it's always something that just kind of like trickles in afterwards and
Yeah.
generates business that way.
And so you mentioned that you have had a couple of high profile customers. So there was the vodka company. Was it the vodka company out of Texas?
Yeah, Deep Eddy Vodka out of
Yeah.
Austin.
And then Chicago Bulls and the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
So how do you like how was that? How did those relationships come about? That's just something you're connecting with them on social media?
Yeah, the so Deep Eddy Vodka, they literally just Googled. I don't know what their search words were, but they just Googled like unique art or like bottle art or something like that. And I was the first one to pop up, so I'm glad I spent some good time on my website SEO there. But yeah, so they just reached out to me. They said, "Yeah, we Googled you. We love your stuff. We want to run some ideas past you." And so that was a good 3 weeks of back and forth design making and editing and just waiting for their supply to come into me so I can again it was one of those situations where I was using their caps from their bottles to make pieces for them. So yeah, Google Chicago Bulls. They just found me on Instagram. I was at my lake in Saskatchewan, turned the phone off for a week and heading back to the city and I turned my phone on and I look at my email. I'm like, the Chicago Bulls are emailing me. That's probably just spam or something. I'll open it anyway. And hey, it's so and so from the Chicago Bulls marketing team. Like we just stumbled upon your Instagram page and we'd love to get you to make a piece. Our main supplier is Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch, so it would have to be all Budweiser caps. And I'm like, no problem. I got too many of those. So made them that piece. Yeah, it's just been I've been extremely fortunate and lucky, and I think just putting in that work into my socials and my website and SEO really has paid off in these larger corporate kind of commercial pieces.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then how did you so so Chicago and then so Chicago Blue Jays. Am I
Uh,
missing anybody?
No,
Or
the
did you
Blue
talk
Jays
about
was
yeah.
actually Labatt. That was their suite
Okay.
in Rogers Center in Toronto. So I mean, the Blue Jays. I don't think are officially affiliated with that one, but they're two of the three pieces are of
That's
Blue Jays
awesome.
players. So yeah.
Good for you. Do you have a typical client? Do you have like is it well, you mentioned the man cave or maybe, a pub. Is there kind of a typical client that comes to you or is it just kind of all over the map?
Uh, it's kind of all over the map, to be honest. Like, yeah, there are the sports pieces. Obviously, those are the bars and the man caves and she sheds and all that stuff, right? But then you get clients like who wanted the Maryland piece here, who are like collectors from New York that just stumbled upon my TikTok and fell in love with my style and had this idea of doing a Marilyn Monroe like on the cross, blood hanging down, like something like that, right? Which was super challenging yet fulfilling because it's typically usually pieces that it's a photo of someone famous like Bowie, or I've done a handful of other musicians and celebrities and stuff, like their portraits. So to create something like this Marilyn piece that that photo doesn't exist anywhere, I had to basically like create it from multiple photos and make it my own. So yeah, it's a pretty wide range of clientele for sure. So
That's cool.
and yeah, all over the place too. Like this one's actually going to Costa Rica. This one's going out to Sherwood Park, and then I got pieces going to Germany soon, and a couple pieces are gonna hang up in your office.
Yeah, no, I
soon,
can't
right?
wait. I'm stoked. So if somebody was going to do what you did, which is give themselves a year, so an artist, listens to your story, they get inspired. What advice do you have, or do you have advice for, an artist that's, looking to really pull the trigger and do that?
I
Like,
think
I guess go all
consistency.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, go all in. You'll never know if you're going to be successful or not unless you give it 100%. So, like, first and foremost, yeah, go all in. Secondly, I think consistency, like, try and have a consistent, like, I know artists are often known as like maybe night owls, or like they don't have like a really regimented schedule or anything, but I think that really helps me. Like I try and stick to a good schedule where I'm doing the same. Like I'm not perfect, don't get me wrong, but like I try and have like, okay, this time is dedicated to like flattening and sorting, and then I'm going to take some time to just work on the socials, and then take some time to work on the next design that's coming up, a little bit of client relations, and then like latter half of the day is strictly focused on like assembling pieces and creating the pieces physically. So that consistency I think really helps, and helps a lot for social media. Like, yeah, we all know like social media for artists is like a necessary evil, and so if you're consistent on there, you will consistently grow, if you follow their algorithm or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, consistency is probably the biggest part, and challenge yourself to try and do something you haven't done before, see if it works. Like that's the artistic side of things. Be experimental, right?
Yeah.
That would be my advice.
So what is kind of what's next for you? What kind of is there a project that's coming up that's exciting, or what's kind of your next adventure?
Yeah, so definitely those pieces of like American history, like that's my next big pivot. I'm not going to pivot away from the bottle cap art because I love doing it, and it is extremely unique. So I have a good niche kind of on that side of the art world. Um, but yeah, I think just yeah, like the I still have this year here, and I don't think I'm gonna have to go back to work. So that's
Nice.
a very exciting thing for me. So yeah, I have about a 5 month wait for commissions, so I got to get through those as well. But I since I do have this full time, I'm trying to do like one commission, and then I want to do a piece that is new and unique and challenging, that I want to make, and then just have those for sale and create a bit of a catalog, and I can bring those to different events and just have those for sale basically too. So yeah, yeah, just see how it goes.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. Um, yeah, it's just really nice. I'm really happy that we were able to connect, and obviously happy to be able to share your story through the podcast, but through the festivals as well. I think it's so important to when to for people to actually get to talk to you and actually see your art in person is it's so important. So thanks for taking the time and sharing your story, and we'll see you, I guess, a week and a half from now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
This was a blast. Looking forward to meeting everyone in Calgary. Don't be shy, come say hi, let's have a chat, let's have a beer after.
absolutely. And I just so that I don't confuse people, because I know we're going to put this podcast out next week. So when they're listening next week, it's only 2 days from now in which we will
Yeah.
see you. So awesome, man.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Travel safely, and congrats, man. And yeah, you're definitely inspiring a lot of people. So
Yeah.
congratulations on everything you've done.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you in 2 days.
You bet, man. Okay, take
Okay.
care.
Cheers.